When the 4th chapter of the TDX Halloween event released, I imagine that most people were left with the same question at the end of it all. Where the heck was Dr. Xenon? She's one of the main antagonists of the game, and while the Awakened and the Void certainly mentioned her, we haven't heard from her ourselves since last Christmas. That is, until now.
Hello, Commander.
That's right. As I'm sure you're all aware, Xenon has finally returned to pull the strings in the latest Christmas event. Now, as excited as I, ROBLOX, and others are to see her again, I am even more excited about the lore potential. Because already, with there only being one part of the winter event out, we learned so much about who Xenon is, what she's after, and why she left the GDA. Be sure to like, subscribe, and strap on in, friends, because today we are diving back into the lore of Tower Defense X. So, with this being the first time that TDX has included lore in the forefront of its gameplay with cutscenes and all the fancy bells and whistles, I want to take my time to catch up anyone who may be new to TDX lore and not have a good understanding of it, as others may have. Up until the recent Halloween event, the lore has been very subtle and required theorists like myself, Rogue Ordinary, and Honeytea to connect the dots. Fortunately, as time has gone on, the lore has become more clear, and yet has remained just as interesting. So, without further ado, allow me to fill you in. In 2023, the TDX Christmas event launched. This event included a game mode that would become a standard in all future events, the Nightmare mode. This alternate, more difficult mode often has the villains as the narrator, rather than the advisor. Where advisor mostly yaps about gameplay and enemies, the Nightmare mode narrators often talk about lore with the player. And this first event was no exception. Here, we were first introduced to Dr. Xenon. We learned that she was the creator of the Eradicators we faced thus far, using her incredible scientific and engineering skills to create death machines against the GDA. Further events would expand on this by crediting multipliers, predators, and the plague division of enemies, anti-golems, avatars, ravagers, and assailants, all to be created by her. She also seemed to have some sort of history with the GDA, although this was not explained at the time. This was expanded on further by the Tower Battles event, where we learned that Dr. Xenon had made some sort of secret alliance with the Void while working for the GDA in the past. Around this time, John and Mr. P would start showing us various pieces of lore art, pictures showing us Dr. Xenon, as well as her lab companion named Mallory. We're not going to focus on Mallory right now, as her fate has already been talked about by Rogue Ordinary and myself. All you need to know for now is that somehow Dr. Xenon sacrificed Dr. Mallory to the demonic Calamity faction in order to achieve something. We're not entirely 100% sure what she did, we just know that it's a thing that happened. Moving to the recent Halloween event, some long-running and obvious theories were confirmed. Sometime in the past, likely around the Tower Battles era, Dr. Xenon and the GDA discovered and entered Hell, harnessing its energy for their own purposes without permission. Using what they found, Dr. Xenon and the GDA developed enhanced golden towers as well as the Eradicators. It is worth noting that when the GDA and Xenon split ways, Dr. Xenon took the Eradicators with her, whilst the GDA held onto the golden tower technology. During the Halloween event, Xenon was in hiding, watching the GDA fight the Awakened, as she explains in her cutscene.
I'll have to admit, you and your forces fighting the Awakened was a surprise to see. A costly victory.
She was preparing her remaining armies for an assault on the GDA's Winter Fortress in order to obtain some strange crystals. Advisor notes that these crystals could be used against the Calamity, meaning that they are most likely not Calamity crystals, and possibly something else. If I were to guess, these crystals could be related to reviving Frosty, which I believe is her ultimate goal, but I will get back to that. For now, I want to focus on more things that Dr. Xenon says throughout Part 1's Nightmare mode. In the Nightmare mode, Dr. Xenon immediately greets us with this line. She shows surprise that the GDA hasn't disposed of us too, implying that Xenon did not leave the GDA on her own accord. She was kicked out, presumably following the events of the Tower Battles event. We also learn that she holds a particular disdain for the Advisor, and foreshadows that he was likely involved in whatever was going on in the past. It's actually really interesting. In addition to that foreshadowing, we also learn that she just has numerous predators roaming around the world, always on the patrol for GDA troops, and can be called to action at any moment. This explains why there are so many, and why the Engineer and the Awakened could just call in large amounts whenever they pleased. I think it's very important to note that Dr. Xenon is likely very desperate at this point in the narrative. Her Eradicators are all destroyed. The Eradicator Mark I was rebuilt into Mark I combat and was destroyed in Endless mode. Mark II was destroyed in Endless, put back together, and destroyed again. And the multiple Mark IVs were obliterated by the Awakened as shown in Rogue Ordinary's video. Apex Predator was also destroyed, rebuilt, and destroyed again. While we know that there are multiple Eradicators of each type, their numbers are finite, as opposed to the Predators, which are mass-produced. It's a safe assumption to make that Dr. Xenon has lost all of her forces to the Awakened Army and the GDA, leaving her only with an army of regular Snow Predators, a bunch of Christmas robots, avatars, and Eradidogs. Xenon's forces are running low, and I believe that is why she wants the crystals. She needs new forces to replenish her armies, and I believe she is going to use these crystals to resurrect Frosty's army. She wants to destroy the GDA, and she needs protection from the Calamity, so it would make sense. We do see that she does seem to regard the Calamity as a greater threat to the GDA, calling the GDA's victory against them a surprising and costly victory. Regardless, she still wants to see the GDA destroyed by any means necessary, and I believe that is what we will be seeing in Part 2. But anyways, that's really all I got for now. I hope you enjoyed this look into Dr. Xenon as a character from the beginning of TDX all the way up until now. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.
This is going to be perfect. They'll never see it coming.